Your top stories this evening, sponsored by Courts, bringing value home. Businesswoman loses home and the business to fire. Fire service applauded for saving nearby wooden structures. Find my son's killers, pleads the mother of slain prison officer Odinga Wickham. And water quality at schools to be monitored. HGP Nightly News begins now. Good evening to our viewers here in Guyana and online. I'm Travis Chase with the Tuesday, July 18 edition of the HGP Nightly News. We have what you need to know this evening. It was like deja vu for a prominent Guyanese businesswoman as her home and business complex were gutted Tuesday morning. Jevon Vickery, who was on the scene of the fire, opens our broadcast this evening.
How do you plan on getting back on the 600?
Maybe I won't. I don't know.
Liana Kane Furniture Factory, owned by Jocelyn Dow, was destroyed by fire back in January 2016 at Pleasance, where it had been located. Millions of dollars worth of equipment was destroyed and at least 50 persons were rendered jobless. Mrs. Dow, however, relived the horror once again as she watched her Charlotte Street home and business complex destroyed by fire, which ripped through the top flat of the wooden structure. The businesswoman recounted that she was awake at the time the fire started.
So I called over, ran downstairs to tell the neighbors because they're on the windward to look out. But nobody answered. I screamed and screamed. I went back to look for my pets. I don't know. I saved two. I don't know where the rest are.
Minister of State Joseph Harmon, who arrived at the scene during the fire, applauded the fire service for saving nearby wooden structures.
Fire is always a major issue with old wooden buildings. I think they're doing their best. I believe that the crowd is basically giving the fire service the room to work and room to maneuver, and we can only hope for the best. I'm very sorry about this. As you know, the owner of this building, Ms. Justin Dow, is an old friend. Of my party, and therefore I've come here to give her whatever support she needs.
Meanwhile, during the fire service's fight to prevent the fire from spreading, bright sparks were seen coming from inside the building. Fire Chief Marlon Gentle said,
"Well, we didn't know that the building, we saw GPL, and I think in all fairness to GPL, they were very early on the scene. Apparently they're depowered, but there's something, either a backup unit or something in there that still keeps power pulsing in the building. The guys are experiencing minor shocks, but it was nothing difficult because their focus is not to let this fire get away from us."
The building housed a salon, a shipping company, and an African attire boutique. Jevon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Jevon. The transfer of those prisoners displaced by the destruction of the Camp Street prison has commenced. Those deemed hardcore will be separated. Here's more. These are the new holding cells at the Lusignan prison, where several prisoners who were transferred after the Camp Street prison was decimated as a result of fire will be kept. More than 1,000 inmates were displaced after that blaze.
Our intention is to, today, sanitize those prisoners who are currently in the walled area as described by the minister, who will be transferred to this area. We're looking somewhere in the vicinity of 450 of the prisoners. The others, we will continue to put arrangements in place to find alternative accommodations for them.
Prison Director Gladwin Samuels. He explained that the prison officers will be able to exert more control over the prisoners who will be housed temporarily at the new holding area.
When they are relocated here, the sleeping arrangement will be much enhanced from what they have right now, because we would have purchased mattress and other sleeping material during the period, which will be issued to them today. This area will also allow us to be able to operate in a more controlled environment. We will be able to segregate the prisoners somewhat and have them process a court and all the other activities that would have been disrupted over the past week.
Just after the Camp Street prison blaze, more than 1,000 prisoners were transferred to the Lusignan prison and housed in an open-air section. The director explained that the hardcore prisoners will be separated from those deemed vulnerable.
It is our hope that this environment will certainly provide a better environment, especially for those persons in there who are deemed to be a bit more vulnerable than those hardcore offenders who have been in various ways taking advantage of those prisoners. And I must include that there have been no reports of any sexual assault, because when I say taken advantage of, that might be taken wrong by members of the general public.
Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News. Thanks for staying tuned to the HGP Nightly News. The Camp Street prison escapees who have been recaptured by the police are yet to be charged and are currently held in a secure holding facility as investigations into their escape continue. Kristen Macklingham reports.
3 prison escapees who were nabbed by police after they fled the Camp Street lockups during the prison inferno and rioting on July 9 are still to be charged as the probe into each of their escapes continue. Crime Chief Wendell Blanham, in a telephone interview with Nightly News on Tuesday, stated that as soon as the investigations end, the trio will face charges.
No, we haven't charged them. We will be declaring charges at the earliest opportunity. But in the meantime, we are still investigating. A lot of work that the detectives have to do. So we are still taking statements and doing some other work.
Crime Chief Wendell Blanham. Mr. Blanham explained that there is a process which must be followed to ensure that the investigations are thoroughly executed before the recaptured prisoners are charged.
The investigation is still ongoing. And as I said, we're still conducting interviews, still taking statements, and from persons who would have, who are on duty at the prisons and also other witnesses. And at the earliest opportunity, we will be seeking legal advice. The police will be seeking legal advice to institute charges against those that escaped and were recaptured.
The crime chief assured that the recaptured prisoners are being held in a secure holding facility, but could not disclose the location. Meanwhile, the police are on the hunt for 4 more prison escapees. Staffray Hopkinson Alexander, Cobina Stevens called OJ, Mark Royden Durant, also known as Royden Williams, and Smalley, and Yuri Varswick. Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Kristen Macklingham.
Thank you, Kristen. You can't win against the state. That's essentially the Minister of Public Security's message, Kemraj Ramjatan, to the other prison escapees as he urged them to surrender. Here's the minister's comment.
I am urging members of the family and relatives and friends of the escapees, if you got any information, please come forward and help the police in relation to the 4 that are still out there. It is a civic duty on your part. It is to ensure the stability and security of our country that we capture as early as possible. These pieces of information that you have will be held in the highest of confidentiality. And please don't be afraid to come forward and help. It will go a far way. And I am also, if for any reason these escapees will get this information, please come out and help in the situation. I know that this is not, it's going to be rough out there. Get out and give yourself up. You're not going to win against the state. Absolutely not. So in your interest, it's better that you do come out.
Minister Ramjatan there urging the escapees to surrender to the police. The recently announced secondary school entrance results has been deemed unsatisfactory by President David Granger. Rodin James has the details in this report.
Although the results of the 2017 National Grade 6 Assessment, commonly referred to as the Common Entrance Exams, revealed improvements in mathematics and English and an overall improvement, President Granger does not believe there is much to celebrate. The president, in an exclusive interview with the Ministry of the Presidency, said the students are not to be blamed, but he believes there are some administrative issues that must be addressed to further improve the overall performance.
even though there has been an improvement in the actual numbers of persons who've done better, it's not satisfactory. I think we need to, instead of looking at 45% pass, we need to be looking at 75 and 85% passes.
The president recently established a Department of Education under his watch in the Ministry of the Presidency. That department, Mr. Granger explained, will examine the entire education system at the primary level.
To see what other changes need to be made in terms of curriculum, in terms of staffing, in terms of the delivery, in terms of infrastructure. All of these have to be examined much more carefully. Should teachers retire at 55 or 60 or 65? You know, are the classrooms adequate? Are the textbooks adequate?
Mr. Granger said he does not want the day-to-day management of the Ministry of Education to be bogged down with trying to implement a strategic plan.
So we hope that after the initial phase, we'll be able to merge the department back into the ministry. But right now, we're aiming at short and middle term objectives to improve performance, particularly at the primary school level.
The president pointed out that the work of the Education Department will not conflict with the program of the Ministry of Education. Royden James, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Royden. A heartbreaking story now for any mother. Find my son's killers, pleads the mother of prison officer who died in the line of duty during the recent prison unrest. Her plea in this story. The grieving mother of Odinga Wickham, the prison officer who was shot and killed during the July 9 Camp Street prison unrest, is pleading with the authorities to find her son's killer.
I am praying that the perpetrator come to justice. Because, losing my son is not easy. He wasn't sick. I am saying if they had given him one shot in his foot, I was going to work like what I did before and look after him, because it's my son.
As his mother related, her son was on duty that day and was among the officers who responded to the unrest. She confirmed that her son had surrendered after prisoners broke out of their cells, some armed. You heard that he was in this gun battle?
Yes.
Inside the prison, and he surrendered?
He surrendered because they say when the person... When he came, the person coming from at the bottom, how it was understood, and like when he realized the person was face to face, so he didn't have a chance to fight with the person. By the time the person started shooting, and he was running, calling for his mother, surrendering, and even they say although he fell, he surrendered. I am saying, Travis.
A prisoner shot him?
Yeah, they say it was a prisoner.
Wickham was rushed to the GPHC for emergency treatment. Initially, police and other prison staff had reported that Wickham was shot 4 times. The autopsy proved otherwise.
All the time, I heard it was 4 gunshot wounds. And then after doing the PM, that's on Wednesday, then I understood that it is 5. 3 to the stomach, 1 in the groin, and 1 in his hand.
The mother related that security personnel had prevented her from seeing her son after doctors telephoned her saying that he had been admitted alive. She believes her son wanted to tell her what happened behind these walls.
Travis, can a dead person speak to you? When my son was alive, as they say, he went in alive. Why you didn't let me see the guy and have a talk with my son? He's calling for me. The nurse said that he's calling. He was calling for his mother. He's calling for his daughter. Let me talk with him. And then I would live with whatever it is, because I still have to live with it at the end of the day.
It was the Minister of Public Security, Kemraj Ramjatan, who said he will lobby Cabinet to grant Wickham's family $1 million since he died in the line of duty.
So you're saying 1 gunshot is 200,000. But you know what? God is going to fight my battle, and I hope. I'm not saying that God is going to fight it on my time. I know God is going to fight it on His time, and I pray that the perpetrator come to justice.
Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News. The quality of water provided in schools across the nation is to be a priority for the Guyana Water Incorporated as part of its improvement strategy. Here is Jevon Vickery with the details.
Whenever there is a protest by parents about the state of schools in Guyana, this is usually accompanied by complaints about the unsanitary condition of learning institutions. Chief Executive of the Guyana Water Incorporated, Dr. Richard Van West Charles, explained that the water company has also taken note of all concerns of water quality and health of students in schools. He stated that teams in all 10 administrative regions were tasked by the water company to work along with the Ministry of Education to give advice and recommendations where needed.
In each of the regions, the staff, they have been tasked to look at the system by which the students will access water, to work with the Ministry of Education where the tanks need to be cleaned, and we are going to be monitoring the water quality in those schools on a regular basis.
The job of the water company will not end after recommendations are given to the Ministry of Education. Checks will be made to ensure all advice are followed by the respective schools.
So we're putting up a series of mini labs so as to be able to test the water. We've just awarded some contracts for one lab to be at Eccles, which will serve on the East Bank corridor. We do have one at Shelterbelt. On the East Coast, there's going to be another one. In Port Morant, there's going to be another one, and one at New Amsterdam. So the monitoring of the system is where we are intensifying our work.
A mini laboratory has already been established in Lethem. The chief executive stated that these labs will serve to test water quality in outlying districts. Jevon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
You're watching the HGP Nightly News. The Tobacco Control Bill has been read a second time, and the Ministry of Public Health, in collaboration with PAHO WHO, has begun sensitization sessions to support the anticipated Tobacco Control Act. More from Ayana George.
PAHO WHO is lending its support to the Ministry of Public Health to tackle the epidemic of tobacco use and the burden of tobacco-related diseases in Guyana. The Ministry of Public Health's Public Relations Officer, Terence Esiboom, says the aim is to implement a legislation that will protect citizens from the hazardous content of tobacco.
The tobacco industry, has the financial wherewithal to fund advertising, which helps mainstream smoking as a cool habit, while at the same time hiding the fact that, one, globally, one person dies every 6 seconds from tobacco use. And if we extrapolate that, there will be 10 persons every minute.
He added that many non-communicable diseases are linked to tobacco products, and this results in an annual rise in the expenditure of the Public Health Ministry.
That exposure to tobacco smoke causes not only deaths, but also diseases and disabilities. For example, workers exposed to tobacco smoke on a regular basis will have a risk of cancer that is between 7 and 700 times higher. Children exposed to secondhand smoke suffer from a wide range of ailments, including acute respiratory diseases, bronchitis, and pneumonia.
National PAHO WHO consultant Cassandra Alves disclosed that training will be administered to health officials in the administrative regions with the aim of making Guyana a leader in tobacco control. She went on to say that tobacco industry is extensive, and to see the legislation come to life, the public first must be educated on the importance of their social and health rights.
WHO, PAHO, Bloomberg initiative, I mentioned Mayor Bloomberg, he pumps a lot of money internationally into tobacco control. In fact, he paid for consultations, his organization and whatnot in Guyana. So we have gotten international assistance, so we get continued assistance, and we do get continued training. I have been a participant in a lot of training, and so Dr. Singh and I, the next set of training we're going to get is implementation.
PAHO WHO statistics revealed that the average age person starts smoking tobacco were between ages 13 to 15 years. 26.6% of males smoke tobacco daily, with just 3.3% for females. Reporting for HGP Nightly News, Ayana George.
Roydon James will tell you now that Guyana is expected to formally submit its EITI application by August. Once all goes well, the country will be accepted as a candidate country into the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative in October. Roydon James reports.
The Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative is a global standard that promotes transparency and accountability in the management of a country's extractive resources by addressing key governance issues. The EITI creates a platform for the government, companies, and civil society to contribute to ensuring good governance of the abundant natural resources. National Coordinator of the Guyana EITI Secretariat, Dr. Rudy Jadupat, at a public outreach recently said that a multi-stakeholder group is expected to finalize the application soon.
There are 5 sign-up steps to the international body called EITI. In order to become a candidate country, we have to satisfy certain requirements before we can even apply. So these are like 5 things that the government and the people in Guyana must get done before we can send in our application.
Guyana has so far fulfilled 4 of the 5 steps application process.
First of the sign-up steps is for the government of Guyana to commit or make a public announcement of its commitment to implement the EITI standard here in Guyana.
That step was done in 2010 under the previous administration, Dr. Jadupat explained. The EITI arrangement is set to be unique, where the government will be working together with civil society and companies to make decisions and to implement those decisions.
After the formation of the MSG, multi-stakeholder group, we have one more step to go, and that is the formulation of a work plan. And that work plan must be published, and after that is done, we have the opportunity, or we will be eligible to submit our candidature application to the EITI.
In May, the EITI board approved Suriname's EITI application. Suriname became the 52nd country to implement the EITI. Roydon James, HGP Nightly News.
I'm Calvin Chapman with the HGP Sports Cars. Good evening. Play continued on Sunday at the Cliff Anderson Sports Hall in the Georgetown Amateur Basketball Association in collaboration with Banks IH, first, second, and under 23 division tournaments with 3 matches as Bounty Colts, UG Trojans, and Pace Setters complete winners row in Night 6 action. Game 1 was contested between Pace Setters and reigning champs Bounty Colts in the second division. As expected, the Colts continued their winning streak in the tournament with an edgy 52-50 points win over Pace Setters. Pace Setters would have definitely been disappointed after surrendering a 13-point lead in the first half and an 11-point gap after the third quarter, which finished 43-32. But as champions do, Bounty Colts stepped up when it mattered and outscored Pace Setters 20-7 in the fourth quarter. Kevin Day, 13 points, and Johan Burrows, 9 points, were the standout scorers for Bounty Colts. Pace Setters Tafao Daly's game-high 16 points was in vain as Colts came from behind to remain unbeaten in the tournament. In Game 2, which was another second division encounter between UG Trojans and Pepsi Sonics, the Trojans won that game 62-31, a good response by UG after successive defeats to Eagles in the under 23 and second divisions. Bouncing back with wins over Cobras in the under 23 on Saturday and now against the Sonics in the second division. Kadeem Peterkin with 17 points was once again a standout player for the University of Guyana, as was the case on Saturday night when he guided his team past Cobras in the under 23 divisions with an identical 17 points. In the win over Sonics, which UG Trojans scored exactly double what Sonics managed, Peterkin sunk 4 3-pointers. He was supported with 10 points from Sherlyn Gillens in the huge win for the university. Game 3. Pacesetters Basketball Club finished the night on a low with their second loss, this time in the first division. They went down 64-55 to Cobras. The game was tied after the first quarter with a score 12-12. But the Cobras, who themselves had their share of licks against UG Trojans, losing 101-63 in the second division on Saturday, kept extending their lead after each of the following periods of play. The second quarter, they led by 2 points, 22-20. The third by 10 points, 41-31, until full-time, 64-55. Travis Burnett, 18 points, top scored for Cobras, supported by Jermaine Slater, 13 points. Pace setters Nathan Saul played well with a game-high 21 points, inclusive of 3 three-pointers. The tournament resumes tomorrow evening at the Barnum Court with 2 matches in the Under-23 division. The first game will be Pace setters against the undefeated Eagles at 6:30 p.m. The second match, which is scheduled to begin at 8:30 p.m., will peg the defending champions Colts against Guardians. The 2017 Digicel Senior National Squash Championships will commence today at the Georgetown Club Courts at 6 p.m. The tournament will run from July 18 to 22, 2017. The following categories will be contested: men's and women's open, and veteran men's 35 to 49 and over 50. The men's open will feature several of the country's top players, including defending national champion Alex Arjun, Richard Chin, Jason Ray Khalil, Christian Jeffrey, Nyron Joseph, Regan Pollard, Ben McDeesey, Jean-Claude Jeffrey, and world-rated female player Nicolette Fernandez. The Women's Open includes Nicolette Fernandez, defending champion Ashley Khalil, Mary Fongafat, Taylor Fernandez, and Victoria Arjun. The men's veterans includes Joe McDessie, Khalil Ali, Mehdi Ramdani, Robin Lowe, Alan Downs, Stephen Passad, and David Fernandez. Over in cricket, the Guyana Cricket Board, in collaboration with Cricket West Indies and Scotiabank, commences its summer camp activities tomorrow in Upper Demerara from 9 hours to 15 hours at the Bayrock Ground. Details to follow. The camp targets students from grades 3 to 6 and shall be primarily used to impart cricket knowledge and its requisite discipline and commitment attributes to said participants. The goal of the camp is to identify 30 talented male players and 20 talented female players from the targeted district locations earmarked for the summer camp. The GCB Cricket West Indies Scotiabank Cricket Summer Camp seeks to attain their objectives of helping the targeted pupils to develop a greater interest and passion for the game, helping students to acquire the skills of batting, bowling, fielding, as well as conceptual skills, just to name a few. The program also aims at helping pupils to identify the need for a holistic development. Regional news. We tell you now that the region's stars are now likely to return to international cricket after Cricket West Indies yesterday announced a temporary player amnesty, the first step towards scrapping the contentious eligibility rule. Cricket West Indies Chief Executive Johnny Grave said that a working group of the Cricket Committee was expected to present recommendations on a rule to the Board of Directors shortly, which would be discussed at a meeting in September. In the interim, Graves said all registered players would be eligible for selection. The agreement forms part of a wider strategy to be more inclusive and to improve player relations, aimed at re-engaging all players within our system so that they can perform at their best for the Windies team, Graves said. The move by CWI comes with West Indies almost certainly set to miss out on automatic qualification for the 2019 World Cup in England. They are currently 9th in the ICC ODI rankings, with only hosts England and the remaining top 7 nations in the world by September 30 assured of automatic qualification. 10 teams will then contest a qualifying tournament next year for the 2 remaining spots at the World Cup. West Indies have one more chance to achieve direct qualification when they face England in a 5-match series in September, but Graves said Cricket West Indies were already preparing for the prospect of playing in next year's qualification tournament in order to reach the World Cup. And with that, we conclude the HGP Sportscast. It's now back to you, Travis.
Businesswoman loses home and business to fire. Fire service applauded for saving nearby wooden structures. Find my son's killers, pleads the mother of slain prison officer Odinga Wickham, and water quality in schools to be monitored. Those were our major headlines. For these stories and more, you can go to our website. It's www.hgptv.com, or you can check out our Facebook page at Nightly News. I'm Travis Chase. Thanks for watching.